An Amish family of 8 sits down to 3 meals a day every day on food that came from a single acre out the back door. No grocery run, no feed store bill, no monthly delivery from a supply chain that could snap tomorrow. Meanwhile, the average American family of 8 is now spending somewhere around $30,000 a year just to eat. Let me say that again slow. $30,000 for food. And most people believe you'd need a huge farm and a small tractor and half your life to escape it. That's flat wrong. 1 acre, 8 mouths, 12 months. That's the whole story, and it's older than the tractor. Here's the deal. By the end of this video, you're going to have the exact layout the Amish used to feed a big family off 1 acre, where every square foot goes, what's planted where, which animals fit where, and how the whole thing feeds itself without you buying inputs. You'll walk out of here knowing why your feed bill is a design flaw, not a fact of life. And you'll see how to build a system that produces food 12 months a year, even in a bad year, even in a cold state, even if you're starting today. Because let's be honest about where you're standing right now. Groceries cost more than they did 2 years ago, and a whole lot more than they did 5 years ago. A gallon of milk is pushing $4 to $5. A dozen decent eggs is running $6 to $4. Ground beef is over $5 a pound in most of the country. A family of 8 burns through $150 to $200 a week on the basics: meat, dairy, bread, produce, and that's before you touch a snack or a treat. Do the arithmetic and you're looking at $900 to $1,200 a month just to keep everyone fed. Now stack on top of that the chicken feed, the rabbit pellets, the goat grain, the garden inputs. That feed store isn't a supplier, it's a subscription, and the terms are getting worse every renewal. And here's what nobody says out loud. That subscription was designed. It didn't happen by accident. Somewhere in the last 80 years, the entire food model on this continent got restructured so that everyone, you, me, the guy down the road with 6 chickens, became a customer instead of a producer. Backyard grain went away. Home dairy went away. Root cellars filled up with holiday decorations. Kitchen gardens shrunk down to a tomato in a pot on the deck. That wasn't your grandfather's choice, and it wasn't your fault. It was a system change that made someone else very rich and made you very dependent. So if you've been trying to homestead and it feels like you're pushing a wagon uphill, that's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because the hill was built. The Amish never got on that wagon. They came to Pennsylvania in the 1700s, and they've been quietly feeding their own families ever since. Through the Great Depression, through 2 world wars, through a pandemic, through supply chain freakouts that emptied grocery shelves in 2020. While the rest of the country was learning to microwave a pot pie, Amish families were still planting a spring garden, still keeping a milk goat in the shed, still curing hams in the smokehouse, still filling a cellar with potatoes and cabbage every October. Their yields per acre would embarrass a lot of modern hobby farms. It isn't magic, it's a stacked layout, honest work, and a set of decisions their great-great-grandfathers already worked out. What I'm about to show you isn't some new trend. It's a 200-year-old blueprint that got buried because it doesn't require a single thing from a company. If you're serious about pulling your family off the grocery treadmill, hit subscribe and ring the bell right now. What's coming next is the exact 1 acre layout, item by item, that lets a family of 8 eat like kings on nothing. Item 1. The zone map. This is the piece almost every homesteader gets wrong on day 1. Most folks scatter. Chickens over here, garden over there, fruit trees way in the back where nobody visits until the coyotes do. The Amish don't scatter. They divide that acre into 4 rough quarters, and every quarter has a job. Closest to the back door goes the kitchen garden, because a garden you don't walk past every morning is a garden that will fail by August. Next quarter over is the small livestock. Hens, rabbits, sometimes ducks, because they get checked twice a day and they eat kitchen scraps. Third quarter is the perennial corner, orchard, berries, nuts, because those get planted once and left alone for 20 years. Fourth quarter is the grain and forage patch, farthest from the house, because it only needs a few visits a season. In roughly 100 by 436 feet of ground, you've got 4 zones, 4 functions, 0 wasted steps. Efficiency isn't sexy, but it is the whole game. Get this layout wrong and nothing else on the list is going to save you. Get it right, and the second item almost runs itself. Item 2, the kitchen garden. This is where the calories live. In the Amish plan, this zone runs about 4,000 square feet, a tenth of the acre, and it's beds, not rows. Deep beds, 30 inches wide, double dug the first year, mulched heavy after that. The reason is simple. John Jevons and the bio-intensive folks proved decades ago that 4,000 square feet, worked right, can feed one adult a year's worth of vegetables. Multiply that up and you can see how 8 people eat off less ground than you think. The Amish don't do fancy. They plant heavy hitters. Potatoes, because a well-managed potato patch throws several hundred pounds off a couple hundred square feet. Winter squash, because one Hubbard the size of a car battery feeds a family for 3 meals. Cabbage, because it stores. Beans for protein you can dry. Carrots, beets, onions, garlic, and enough tomatoes to fill 100-quart jars. It's not the salad bar garden Instagram sold you. It's a calorie garden. And when you plant a calorie garden right, it does something a lawn will never do. It feeds you. But even a monster garden isn't the long game. The long game is what's growing in Item 3. Item 3, the perennial corner. This is the quarter of your acre that pays you for 20 years off a single afternoon of planting. In the Amish layout, this is where the fruit and nut trees go, along with the berry rows tucked under and around them. 6 semi-dwarf apple trees will each throw somewhere between 3 and 6 bushels of fruit a year once they're mature. Call it 30 bushels between them, easy, which is roughly 1,500 pounds of apples for eating, saucing, cider, and dried rings. Add 2 or 3 pear trees, a couple of plums, a sour cherry for pies, and you've got dessert handled without a checkout line. Along the fences you run raspberry canes and blackberry brambles, which will hand you about 1 to 1.5 pounds of fruit per foot of row once they're settled in. Grapes get their own arbor by the porch. A small strawberry patch by the garden ties it together. Now here's the piece nobody plans for. A couple of walnut or hazelnut trees way in the corner. Free protein and fat dropping on the ground for the next 50 years. That's generational eating. But fruit alone won't fill a breadbasket. That's where Item 4 comes in. Item 4, the grain patch. This is the quarter of the acre that quietly does the work of a feed store and a bakery at the same time. Most people think you can't grow grain on a small piece of ground. You can. The Amish have been doing it forever. In the back corner of that acre, call it 1/10 to 1/5 of the total, you plant a rotation of open-pollinated field corn, soft wheat, and oats. A well-tended plot of heirloom flint or dent corn will bring in somewhere around 40 to 70 bushels an acre when you scale the numbers down honestly. That's roughly 2,200 to nearly 4,000 pounds of shelled corn if you had the full acre. But even a quarter-acre patch is throwing 500 to 1,000 pounds. That's flour for cornbread, cornmeal for mush, cracked grain for the hens, and whole ears for the goats in winter. Wheat gives you a couple hundred pounds of bread flour. Oats feed the animals and go into your morning porridge. Nothing gets wasted. The stalks become bedding, the bedding becomes compost, the compost feeds the garden. Because the grain patch quietly pulls double duty, and that's exactly the trick that makes Item 5 work. Item 5. Laying hens and meat rabbits. This is where the Amish quietly outperform every modern homesteader I know. 8 to 10 laying hens, decent heritage breed like a Barred Rock or a Rhode Island Red, will hand you around 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a year. That's 5 to 6 eggs a day on average, more in spring, less in winter. Enough to feed a family of 8 breakfast every morning with leftovers for baking and trading. They eat kitchen scraps, garden leftovers, spilled grain, and bugs, pretty much everything you were going to compost anyway. Now for the rabbits. This is the part nobody talks about, and it's the sneakiest calorie hack on the whole acre. 3 does and 1 buck. That's it. That trio will throw somewhere north of 180 pounds of dressed meat a year. Some breeders get close to 250 pounds off nothing but pellets, garden greens, and yard weeds. That's more meat than most people get from a beef cow in a hutch the size of a picnic table. My grandfather kept rabbits and called them the poor man's steer. He wasn't wrong. But protein still isn't dairy. And dairy is item 6, the dairy goat. Item 6, the dairy goat. Everyone dreams of a family cow. Almost nobody should have one on a single acre. A cow eats like a cow. A goat doesn't. 2 good milking does, Nubians, Alpines, or La Manchas, will hand you somewhere between 1 and 1.5 gallons of milk apiece at peak and hold decent production for around 300 days of the year. That's roughly 600 to 900 gallons of milk for the family off 2 animals that eat about 1/5 of what a cow eats and fit in a shed the size of a bathroom. From that milk, you're making butter, soft cheese, hard cheese for the cellar, yogurt, kefir, and the odd batch of ice cream when the kids have been good. The whey goes to the hens and the pigs if you keep them. Nothing gets thrown out. Nothing gets bought. The goats browse the brush at the edges of the property, which means they mow the parts of your land you don't want to mow, and they turn weeds into dairy for free. The Amish figured this out a long time ago. But even a dairy goat doesn't help you in January, unless you've got item 7 waiting in the wings. Item 7, the root cellar and cold pantry. This is the piece that closes the whole loop, because a garden that fills your table in August and lets your family go hungry in February isn't a food system, it's a hobby. The Amish know that. Every farmhouse has a real cellar, 32 to 40 degrees, high humidity, dark, quiet, and it's stacked to the joists by the first hard frost. Potatoes in wooden bins, carrots in damp sand, cabbages hanging by their roots from the ceiling, winter squash on shelves where the air moves, onions and garlic braided and hung, apples in single layers not touching on a rack. That cellar is holding roughly 1,000 pounds of food, no electricity, no freezer, no bill. Beside it sits the cold pantry, hundreds of quart jars of tomatoes, green beans, applesauce, jam, pickles, kraut, broth, and canned meat, plus crocks of fermented vegetables and jars of dried herbs, cheese wheels aging on a wooden shelf, hams and bacon curing on hooks. That's not prepping, that's normal, and it was normal for 200 years before the freezer aisle existed. Put all 7 pieces together and something quietly incredible happens, which is exactly where the story turns. Now, let me be straight with you, because I didn't grow up believing any of this. My first year trying to feed the family off our own ground, I did the exact thing I told you not to do. I scattered. I planted 40 tomato plants in the wrong spot, put the chickens on the far side of the property, ordered $120 worth of seed I didn't need, and by August I had a jungle of weeds, a coop nobody wanted to walk to, and a grocery bill that had barely moved. I remember standing in that overgrown mess in September thinking, this is not working, and maybe it never worked, and maybe the old-timers were just tougher than me. Then I met an older Amish neighbor who walked our land with me one afternoon and said 6 sentences. He said the garden should touch the kitchen. He said the chickens go where the scraps are. He said the trees go where you won't have to mow. He said the grain goes where you can leave it alone. And he said pick 5 things you eat every week and grow those first. That was it. That was the whole conversation. The next year, I redrew the map. I moved the beds, I moved the coop, I put in 6 apple trees and 3 pears, I planted 150 row feet of potatoes. Our grocery bill dropped by more than half in one season. That's when I became a convert. Now let me save you from the mistakes that wreck most people's plans, because I made 3 of the 4, and I've watched neighbors make the 4th. Mistake number 1, starting with the animals. Everybody wants the chickens and the goats first because animals are fun. Do not do that. Start with the garden and the trees. The animals eat what the land grows. If the land isn't growing yet, the animals just become another feed store bill in a cuter package. Fix: get the perennials in the ground the first fall, then add livestock the second spring. Mistake number 2, planting what looks pretty in a seed catalog instead of what your family actually eats. Nobody in your house eats kohlrabi. Stop growing kohlrabi. Grow the potatoes, the onions, the beans, the tomatoes, the squash. Fix: write down every meal your family ate last week and grow those ingredients. Mistake number 3, no water plan. A 1-acre food system needs water it can count on, not a garden hose stretched from the house. Fix: put in rain barrels, a swale, or a small pond the first year before you plant a single tree. Mistake number 4, skipping the cellar. People spend $3,000 on a chest freezer and then lose everything when the power goes out for 4 days. A proper cellar is cheap, silent, and works during an ice storm. Fix: dig it, build it, or convert a corner of the basement before the first harvest comes in. Nail those 4, and the system runs. Now picture your property 18 months from now. It's a Saturday morning in October. You walk out the back door with a coffee and a basket. The kitchen garden is right there. You pull carrots, an armload of kale, the last of the tomatoes, a couple of heads of cabbage for kraut. You walk past the coop, and there are 11 eggs waiting in the nest boxes. The goats are already up on the browse line, and one of the kids is heading out with the milk pail. In the perennial corner, the apples are in, and there are 3 bushels sitting on the porch waiting to be pressed. Under the eaves of the shed, the corn is drying on the cob. Down in the cellar, there are 400 pounds of potatoes, 60 butternut squash, and 2 shelves of quart jars stacked 3 deep. The freezer is nearly empty because you don't need it. You haven't been to the grocery store in 3 weeks. Your feed bill for the whole month is 0, not reduced, not smaller than last year, 0. And you built it all on 1 acre. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me which of the 7 pieces you'd start with if you were building this from scratch today. The garden, the perennials, the grain, the hens, the rabbits, the goats, or the cellar. I read every single comment on this channel, and the answers you all give shape the videos I make next. And because a lot of you are going to ask for the actual map, I've put together a free 1-acre layout blueprint. The exact zones, dimensions, plant lists, and animal counts we just walked through, and it's sitting in the description below this video. Grab it, print it out, and start sketching your own. Next week, I'm breaking down the 1 Amish practice that turns a normal backyard garden into a food factory that produces almost twice as much off the same square footage, and most people have never even heard of it. That video's coming Thursday. Until then, remember this: your 1 acre is enough, your family is worth it, and the old ways still work.